Hey, it's Karlie.
Hey, it's Mina,
And
and we're Emotion Ball.
ooh, 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 ooh. Okay, I need to sit up better. Hey y'allies.
What are we talking about? Oh wait, let's do our patrons. Thank you to I always forget like what we do now. Thank you to Joanne Stewart, Kevin Gallagher, and Therese Gallagher for your continued support on Patreon. We want more patrons. Check us out. We also want you guys to comment, like, DM us, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. We had somebody comment on our YouTube, I think last week or the week before. So thank you.
We did?
We did.
A fan? We have a fan?
It's it was Oksana.
Ah, well, thanks, Oksana.
Yes, thank you for your
What'd she say? Why
Let's
didn't you tell me?
go. I don't know, I forgot. I figured you would see it or something.
You know I'm bad with social media.
Yeah. I think she was just like, let's go. Something like that.
We'll have to phone her in one day and just be like, we're recording.
And go. We're live.
Yeah.
Um, what are we talking about today?
We're just gonna jump in.
No, we gotta tell them what we're talking about, then say, let's get, and then start talking about it.
Today we're gonna talk about FOMO.
FOMO.
Fear of missing out.
For anybody that didn't know.
Yes.
And
are you
how
ready?
this relates to the pandemic.
No, shh. We'll get there. Don't give them too many deets.
Yeah. Listen for more information.
Are you ready? Are you?
Are you?
Are you ready?
It's like in Tiana when the voodoo man's like, is that what
that is, bro, I just watched that movie today during work. No wonder that's why I said it like that. Are you ready? Okay. Thank you.
See? You even watched the movie and didn't get the Disney reference, and I did.
Okay, so me and Shamina chose this topic because we were literally having a conversation a few hours ago about how this weekend, obviously once we release, it'll be last weekend, but this weekend coming up as we're recording is Gasparilla in Tampa, which is where we live. And I was telling her how, this year is like different. One, it's going to be like super freaking cold, and I don't like being out in the cold. But I was telling her there are some other, like I've been to Gasparilla at least 4 times that I can remember throughout like my 20s and stuff. But this year, what?
I said because you were drunk for the rest. You're like 4 that I can remember.
Oh, I was drunk for those, baby. But I was telling Shamina how this year I don't want to go, but then there's a part of me that feels like I do want to go, but I don't, like it's just like, I know 2 of my friends that are going, but it's like almost like it's like I don't know if it's like maybe me accepting like this new version of myself and I'm not fully like letting go of that version of who that version of me would have been, like no doubt about it I was there. And this new version is like but like some of the other factors we talked about is I don't drink anymore. It's gonna be just a whole bunch of drunk people. I don't drink anymore, I swear. It's gonna be a whole bunch of drunk people, and like I'm just not really a big fan of big crowds anymore. And we were saying like also like we're still in a pandemic, What was that?
I muted myself for a second because my dogs were barking and I was gonna go yell at them. Why? What happened?
It was like a doorbell, like someone, like I was like, did someone join our meeting? Anyways, so you know, we're still technically in a pandemic. Obviously, a lot of people are not treating it that way. And I'll say, like, I've slacked off a little bit, but I'm still like trying to be cautious. And so I just feel like, and it's like, you know, with Gasparilla, if any one of our listeners have been, it's like you have to commit like 8 hours, you know, like you get there at like 9 a.m. and there's no leaving that general area until traffic has calmed down and, you know, the police are, you know, not blocking off areas. So it's like a whole day, you know? And so like it's a whole day. Like I think I was reminiscing with Shamina about like, if any of our listeners know Gasparilla, it's on Bayshore in Tampa. For me personally, there have been times that I've started on Bayshore and I've ended up in Ybor, which is a couple miles away, and we walked. I've ended up in downtown Tampa. Again, it's a couple miles away, and we've walked all of this because there's no getting cars in and out of that area once this all like that day. There's no getting cars in that, and I'm like, I'm not doing that this year. And then especially like in Tampa, it's a high of like 50. So I told my friends, I was like, have fun. Like my one friend's never experienced it. So I was like, you definitely should go and experience it. But I was just telling Shamina, like, I just felt like torn because it's like, I know that I don't want to go, but then a part of me is like, am I missing out? Like, you know, but then I'm like, probably not. Like, you know, because I don't drink anymore. I don't want to be around a whole bunch of drunk, annoying people.
Agreed. And I've even been seeing people like posting on social media, I can't wait for the weekend, Gasparilla, like when's it coming, when's it coming, when's it coming, and like everybody's like hyping up, and I'm getting ready to like curl up on my couch and like read a book. But then part of me's like, should I be doing those things? Should I be going out? Should I be being more like social? Like isn't that what you're supposed to, quote unquote, be doing at this stage in our lives?
I think the most important word you said was should, because I think, like you've said, it's like what society deems we should be doing. And if we personally aren't, because we're not that type of people, it makes us feel guilty of like, is something wrong with me because I don't want to be doing those things that I should be doing or should be wanting to do, you know? And like, I don't know. I just think like for me, it's several factors of one, I've lived that life. I had a good time. I did enjoy Gasparilla several times. But I will say also, it's like, I think I'm still transitioning into who I am as a single individual and learning what I like and things that I like to do. And I think like, especially like this past week, has been bringing up a lot of past memories and just like all that kind of stuff. And so I have to remind myself that it's not even been a year, although sometimes it feels like it. It's not been a year. And I still have a lot of like healing and stuff to do because I think, you know, when you have several good days in a row, you're like, yeah. And then when you have like days where you're thinking about it, you're like, oh. So I think like, you know, it's that of like, for me personally, it's several things of um the missing out part, I guess. Because I feel, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think missing out can be like I don't want to say it's like you can miss out for things that are happening in the future, things that are currently happening, but also like things that have already happened, you know. And when we were talking earlier, I was telling you how I had reached out to a friend that I knew in college, and I was like, do you wish that we like would have had more like college experiences and that we missed out on stuff because of, you know, like our anxieties or just the way that we were, what was going on in our lives at the time? And she was like, yeah, all the time. And so I don't think there's like a time construct on missing out, because even in the present moment, like that's what social media does to us is, you know, we're not traveling, or we're not going to like these places or doing these things, and so we feel like we're missing out on something because of what we're seeing on social media. And then also for what's to come, you know, like Gasparilla in the coming weekend, or You know, even Valentine's Day. I was talking with a client today about Valentine's Day and all of those kinds of things. So I think it can be past, present, or future oriented.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you're an individual healing, you're still figuring out like who you are now, you know, separate of whatever experience it is that you're healing from. And like for me, I don't know, I think my personal struggle is, am I doing these things now because I truly enjoy them, or or I feel obligated? Because you know, like in the past relationship, I did a lot of things to satisfy my partner, but it didn't do anything for me, and then that built up, and then I think I just got so used to almost secluding myself because I was like, I'm not doing things that you want to do, that now I'm like figuring that stuff out.
Well, you're figuring out like what you want to do and not what they wanted you to do or what you think you should do because that's what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have to tell myself that that's okay, you know, like if I want to stay in on Saturday, or even if I did want to go to Gasparilla, but I don't want to go to Gasparilla. But a part of me is like, do I want to go to Gasparilla?
Well, I wonder, like, when you think about going, what is it that you feel like you're going to miss out on?
You know, it's funny because before you asked me that, I was thinking about it, and it's more of like those quality moments of like that. Like for me, literally what I'm picturing that I'm potentially going to miss out on is like funny memories to look back on. Because for instance, one of the Gasparillas that I can think of that I think you know about, I went with some friends, like one friend from high school and then some other friends from college. And one of the friends from high school had to go to the bathroom, and there's like, again, no bathrooms. Like there's some porta potties, but the lines are like a mile long. So we snuck into a random house party, used their bathroom, made ourselves drinks with their drinks, started like doing, you know, just chilling. And then someone that actually knew someone was like, who do you know? And we're like, bye. And we just like dipped. And so like I think about that now, and to this day it makes me chuckle because I'm like, what the fuck were we doing? You know? So like I think about like, and like I remember like, you know, they'll have like little vendors like they do at the fairs and stuff. Yeah. And they had, you know, those drinks that are like inside the core of a pineapple, like the shell of a pineapple. And my friend just stole the display one, but I'm like, it was full of flies. And it was like, why would you want that one? But she just thought it was like, let's go, guys. And we're like, oh my God. So like, I think it's just like thinking about, I'm reminiscing on all the good times I had when I went. And I'm like, oh, like, you know, I did have some funny moments. Like there was a time I got so drunk, I could not walk. And I had two people on both sides of me carrying me because I was turned. But
too lit. You were too lit.
Yeah, so I don't know, like I guess that's what's making me kind of like, oh, do I want to go? Because I'm like, I've had good memories when I've gone, but then I do remember like one of the last few times as I was older, I was kind of like, all right, I'm ready to go home. Like I just want to go home, you know? So
yeah. Well, it almost sounds like you're trying to like recreate these past moments in like a future tense. Like that version of you doesn't exist. Like, yeah, you could still have fun, but I imagine a large part of that fun was probably an alcoholic beverage. And so you don't drink now. And that is a very different experience being sober to these kinds of events. But it seems like you want like the memories from the past to be recreated in like this future moment. But you could also get that by not going to a parade. And
yeah, I just I totally agree. And you know what I just thought about as you were saying that is my ex never went to Gasparilla with me or any time or during the time that I had known him because he didn't like being around big crowds and like a lot of people like that. And so I'm like, am I the way that I am now because of being with him for as long? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'd like to think not, but
Like the way that you are now is in not wanting to go out.
well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I
How
don't
do
know.
you not know what you mean?
Yeah, like I mean, like now I think I'm more of like a calm, like introvert, and I don't know. I think sometimes I'm like not mad, but like it's like, did I just adapt myself? Like, is this really who I am? But then when I go out and do those big party things, I'm like, oh, like this is a lot,
Yeah.
And what we were kind of narrowing it down to is I think COVID did this a lot too, because when COVID first hit, there was like curfew. Freaking everything was closed except for groceries. There was literally not doing anything except like going to crucial places like grocery stores. And when COVID first hit, I personally took it very, very seriously. And I was like, I don't want to get, at the end of the day, I don't want to die, like I don't want to get sick, but I don't want to freaking die.
Yeah.
What?
Hang on. So before we get into the pandemic stuff, let me go back to, like, is this really me? Because we kind of touched on that. I don't think it was the last episode, maybe the first one. I can't remember. Sometime in this season, in the past 2 episodes, where I think that version of you when we were younger, like that was who you are. And as we've gotten older, we've grown out of that lifestyle. And some people like still maintain that kind of lifestyle, but I think you're recognizing how exhausting that lifestyle like was for you. And even, we talked about how when you're in social settings, like that energy comes back out, that version of you comes back out, and it's still there, but now it's more controlled to like when you're feeling comfortable around other people, and it's not like I have to go out in order to like release that version of myself. I think you're one of those like you're an extrovert 100% because but you're like an introverted extrovert. And so I think now you're recognizing and prioritizing the introverted side because you are tired, whether that's because of like the healing process or the pandemic has kind of facilitated that. To me, at least, watching you for the past, how long have we been friends? Decade.
Yeah.
That side of you still exists, but I think you're just not, we've outgrown like the partying phase, like we're entering our late
I know. I still can't believe that, but
and like for some people, I see on social media they're like ready to go, but like the idea of that for me is exhausting. Whereas like if I was 21, hell yeah, like let's go, let's have a good time, like whatever. And then after like 2 hours I'd be like, get me back home. My social media has like diminished. But I think our ideas of a good time have changed just because we're older and like our priorities have changed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like my idea of a really good time would be like having a bonfire and like hanging out and like a movie night or something. Like that would give me as much energy as not even going to Gasparilla, because that would like traumatize me.
Have you ever been?
I told you I went once, and
oh, that's right.
We like my friend and we walked around. Like I said, I don't even think we saw the parade, but we were just like walking around, and we walked to like downtown. We got dropped off in downtown, but we walked to the bay, and even just the walk was like ridiculous, the amount of people. And we were trying to find like a good place to stand, and I was like, I can't stand here for this long. Let's go. So I think we got food and then just left.
Honestly, I feel like if you're doing Gasparilla right, you don't see the parade. Like, it's just not like the 4 times I want to say it's only 4 times that I've been, but I don't know. But of those 4 times that I recall, I don't ever recall watching the parade. Like that's not, like maybe some people do, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I'm just still like accepting that, if that makes sense. Like in the sense of like how you said, like I've just started to like calm down. I think I'm still accepting that because there is a part of me that misses that girl that was always like loud and crazy and down to party, and it was never a question of like, is Karlie gonna want to go? It was like, Karlie's gonna go, like no matter what. You could ask me an hour before and I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it. And now I'm like, I need 3 to 5 business days to think about this, please. And so like I just think for me, I think you're right. I agree with you, but it's just sometimes hard for me to accept that. And then when I do think like, so I think with Gasparilla coming up and me reminiscing on the old times, it makes me like kind of like sad in a sense of like, oh, like I remember when I used to go do that, and now I can't imagine going out there, but then I'm still kind of sad that I'm not.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're like grieving the old version of you, and like I said, that version still exists, and I see it. Like when we had that holiday party at your house, we went to your parents' place a couple weekends ago. Like that version is still there, and there was something else that I was gonna say. What was it? I don't know.
Bing bong.
I think that even like during that phase, I think that's why you and I also naturally just kind of drifted apart, because that was like your idea of a good time, like going out, doing all of those things. And I was like, that is exhausting. I need an exit plan. I need to make sure that I'm home by like 9:30. I got homework. Like I, you know, all of those things. And so I think just in like the course of our friendship, you and I never were on that same page, and we've never been like those types of friends that like go out and party. We have a couple of times, but then I'm like, I gotta go home, and then you're like, let's go, next club, next drink. Like I'm like, I'm tired, my feet hurt. Like, can we go, please? And I can remember one time it was my birthday and we went down in Ybor.
I was literally thinking, I was like, your birthday.
I think that was like one of the only times where I was like, let's go, just because it was my birthday. But then as I got older, I was like, my anxiety would get so high when I would be out that long, or like not knowing the next thing that we were going to do. And you're just very like on the fly, doesn't matter. You didn't need to have it planned out. And I was like, I need an itinerary broken down every like 15-minute increments, and I need to know that I will be able to leave when I want to leave. So I think when we just drifted apart in college like that, it worked, because otherwise I would have hated you if I like put myself in those situations. And even when we were roommates, I think that's also why we had conflict, was because you were like, party, party, party. And I was like, I need to be in bed. It's like 7:30. I have school tomorrow. Like, please be quiet.
Well, it's funny because I feel like that's how I am now. Of like I prefer to drive my own car because I need to know that I can leave when I want to leave, and like just things like that. Of like you said, like okay, like if we're going to dinner, that's all we're doing, right? Like I need to know, do you have plans of doing something after? Because if so, I'm gonna bring my car. I'm gonna leave when I want to leave, like
emotionally prepare for the amount of energy I have to expel.
Mm-hmm. But no, yeah, I do think about like what you said. I do remember your birthday. I feel like that's the only time that like I can remember that we really went out like that. And yeah, we went, I think we probably stayed out till the clubs closed that night. I don't remember, but we probably did.
I remember my nose ring fell out.
Yes.
My ears were pierced, and so I like woke up and I was like, oh my god, my hole's gonna close. So I shoved my earring in through my nose hole, and it was just massive. And I was like, what's happening? What's happening?
Oh, yeah. But it's funny because you say that, and like, I think like back in the day, again, when I was like 20, 21, 22, I was like that. I was like, let's do it, you know? I can remember coming home to that apartment that me and you were roommates. I was so drunk. I didn't even make it to my bedroom. I literally made it in the front door and just fell on the ground. And my friends just brought me a pillow they slept in my bed and brought me a pillow from my bed and just put it under my head right at that entrance. Literally, I don't think like if one of our roommates tried to enter, they could have because I was right there. And I think I woke up at like 5 or 6 and I'm like, what the hell? Like, and I went to go in my room and they were like all snuggled up and I'm like, move, bro. Like, give me my bed. Like, and now I'm like in bed by like 9:30 on the weekends.
Yeah. And even you and I, like, even when we were like in high school and then as we got older, our quality time was like just the two of us together, whether it was like just hanging out or shopping or what have you. And we talked about this before, but I think that's why we've connected so well and we balance each other out, is because you can be the extroverted person. I even remember in college when you lived you lived in the apartments across from USF, and I went to a party with you, and I was bringing this guy that I had just started dating, and you were gonna meet. We went to this party, and you were just like going full force, like dancing, like all of these things, and I just looked at you, and I think the guy I was dating, he was just like, oh my god, like what? I was like, that's Karlie. That's Karlie. That's what she does. Like, it's cool. It's good. And like that was your time that I could respect it. I would watch out for you and just make sure like you're good, and or like take your drinks away from you because you've had enough. And then we would have like our quality time together. So it was like this nice balance of like accepting the extroverted side, and you know, that's who you are. I used to get so drained I think when we were in high school. I was like, oh my god, this girl is a lot. And then when you and Oksana would get together, I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I will say in high school, I didn't have like an off button ever.
Yeah, true. You had an off button if you were alone with somebody else. Like if me and you just did something, or if we were cooking at your parents' house, or like we just had a sleepover, like your energy level was significantly down. It's when you're in a social setting with more than like two people, not even two, more than one other person, then the social meter's like, and that you still have, because like even when we're on the podcast with like multiple people, like that part of you comes back out. Or you know, the holiday party, we had multiple people there, that part of you comes back out. But then you and I were like together exchanging gifts, and the energy went back down.
Yeah. And you said that I went to, and you were like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. So that part of you still lives.
Thanks, Shamina. I needed that pep talk.
It's just not all the time like it was. And I don't know how you sustain that, because I feel like I would have died.
Well, we've talked about it in a past episode where like I think it was easier for me to sustain it in high school because of my living situation, in the sense of like my family is crazy like that. And like with my family, there's no planning. Like even to this day, like when I go and visit my family on the weekends and stuff, I'll ask like what's going on, and they're like, oh, we don't know. And I'm like, okay, like aren't we supposed to be doing something though, you know? Like, and I'm like kind of like, well, maybe we should call and ask to confirm so that we know. And they're just like, why? And I'm like, okay, never mind, we'll just hang out, you know.
Yeah,
and so
that was my, like, whenever we go on family vacations with your family, that was my biggest pet. I would have so much anxiety. Like, we'd try to find a place to eat, and we would just walk to restaurants and look at them. Nope, keep going. Look, nope, keep going. Oh, this place looks good. And I'm like, it's been like 5 hours since I've eaten. I need to eat something. Like, I can't do this.
That's literally my family to this day. And it's funny because just this past Christmas or whenever the heck it was, maybe it was a little bit earlier than that. My cousin from California was in town. We were meeting them in St. Pete to like just hang out. And we probably walked the strip of St. Pete and would stop and look at the menu. And then we'd be like, what do you guys think? And no one would have a word. So we're like, all right, let's try another place. And then we'd go, and then finally it had been like 20, 30 minutes. And we're like, we need to choose something because my cousin has to leave soon. And so we ended up at this like random, I honestly was like, this was the best we could do. Like, but it was just because it was so last minute that we were like, okay, this is fine. And then we are like, well, we'll find something on the menu because like my family's not picky or anything, but we're also like, oh, what do they have? Like, do they have anything interesting?
You gotta love the Gallaghers.
Yeah. We're something else, baby. We are something else. That's for sure. So, we're definitely to get used to.
Yes. That's a fine-tuned skill. Now it's like, okay, we slip in, whatever. Like, if I need to walk away, I'll walk away. But in the beginning, even just recently, like, we were at your parents' house and you were like hanging out with your nephew, and your brother was just like, are you gonna stand there just like awkwardly like waiting for her? And I was like, yeah, I am, because I don't know what to do. This would be unnatural in my own home. This would not occur, so I'm gonna stand here until I'm told what I need to do.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So back to the pandemic and how that's contributed to like FOMO, or even, you were telling me that like you and your therapist were talking about how that's really created a lot of more like introverted people.
Yeah, no, we were talking about it because I forget how it got brought up, but ooh, Shamina getting serious. Shamina's out. This is always awkward for me, but we were talking about it. I don't remember how, but she was just like, yeah, like it's something that I think a lot of people are still working on, of being comfortable now, like in bigger settings, like, parties and things like that, because it's definitely created this like concern now that when we're out doing those things, that's like an additional thought that we have to like think about, and it can bring on like fear.
Yeah, like we were just talking about, sorry, my dogs start barking and it's a fiasco. And they're very loud and it's hard to hear anything. I can't even hear myself think. But anyway, we were talking about, even, I was mentioning that my niece, my brother and sister-in-law and my niece live out of state, and it'll be a year in March that I've seen them, and they recently moved it over the summer. And it's like, oh, I want to go fly up and see them, but it's like flying scares me, and I have this like pause and this hesitation, and I think it's been really challenging because we talk about all the time like how as adults, how do we make friends, and we work from home, so it's like, oh, I don't have like office friends that I can like, oh, like let me just stop in and like say hey, or like go in between and just have these casual conversations. And I think even that makes it a lot harder to make these types of connections because we don't have the opportunities to go out and do that. Or if we do, there's always like that underlying, am I going to get sick? Is something going to happen? Do I have my mask?
Mm-hmm. This is like kind of off topic, but not, in the sense of thinking about friends. So I'm almost 28, and I feel like the core of my friends are either like, I have some friends that are from high school, and then I have some really core friends that I've made from college. And I personally feel like these are friends that I'll have for life. And I think about it, and right there, homies. But shout out. But I feel like I think about like my mom, and I feel like I'm like I feel like a lot of her friends were friends that she made from work, like when she first started working.
Yeah.
And I don't have any friends that I've made from work that I'm like close with, and like I'm no, like all of my core friends I made from either high school, and our relationship has just lasted these 10 years, 15, 10 to 14 years, or they're from college. And like, they're, to me, again, core friendships. Like, we speak almost at least once a week. We see each other. I have some of them, I see each other at least once a week. And you know what I think it is, and I don't want to go off topic, but I think it's because as generations are going on, like our generation is getting married and stuff later. Like, it's not like super late, but like by the time my mom was my age, she had 2 kids and was married.
Right.
I'm not. And so like, and I honestly can't imagine when I'll have a child. Like right now, that's not even in my foreseeable future because I don't want one as of right now. And so I just think it's like really interesting, the kind of shift in, like, I feel like a lot of her close friends that I personally know, she made from either like work, or I know some of them are from like my friends' moms that she's remained close with. And I just was thinking about that, but that's not about the pandemic.
But I mean, you can kind of tie it to that because, when the shutdown happened in May, which that seems like a dream.
No, it was in March.
No, it wasn't.
Yes. COVID, the reason I know that is, yes, it was in March because it was like,
I remember
bro, COVID happened in March.
COVID happened in March, but the complete shutdown, that was in May.
Oh, okay, yes.
Like when all the stores and everything shut down, but like everybody, like COVID became a thing in March of 2020. Yeah.
Okay.
Now I lost my train of thought. Aren't you supposed to be writing things down and not interrupting me?
Might be. It's a learning process.
Like you can tie it to that though, because I mean that we're going in year 2 now of the pandemic, and let's say in March of 2020 you started working from home, or you got laid off because of like the pandemic, couldn't find a job, or started working from home again. Like that's completely cut off a huge resource for people like me. Like I started working from home in March of 2020, and then in September, that's when I fully transitioned to completely working from home. I haven't even been in an office setting since like March of 2020. And, I just had my first office meeting at my new, in parentheses, at my current job at the beginning of this month. I hadn't even met the people that I work with in person in like 18 months. Like that's insane.
Well, I've not been in an office setting since January of 2021, so about a year now. But this job that I have now, I started in June of 2021. I didn't meet my coworkers in person until December when we had an office party, and I only met some of them. And then it was like the week later that I met all of them because we had a dinner. So it had been like 6 months before I had met my coworkers in person. I had literally only known them from their shoulders and up from like team meetings that we had had. So like I kind of knew their personality, but I knew only their work personality. I didn't know them outside of work. And I do definitely think that does play a role because like you said, everything shut down. And I can remember like when that shutdown did happen, I didn't see like my family and stuff for months. And I don't remember when my job started going back to my old job, because my old job, when I had quit, I was in office 3 days a week. I don't remember when they started doing that, but anyways, But it's interesting too, because I feel like with granted, we were still in a pandemic, so maybe that's why. But I remember when my old job started making us transition to go back, I hated it. I hated being in office because I felt very uncomfortable. And also I felt like my job was not like taking the necessary precautions, because like we had to see people every day, and like, yeah, they had to wear a mask, but it was just like, I don't know, like I just felt like I felt like my old job was just more of like, we need to get back to what we saw as regular life. Whereas like, I think now a lot of businesses are adapting the idea of, hey, our employees can work from home.
Yeah, I even have, with the new variant, I have a lot of college age students, and one goes to school down south. And for the first couple of weeks of this new semester, they've made everybody go virtual because of like the new variant and how rampant it is. And I was like, wow, like I hadn't heard of a college doing that right now, because everybody else is like, go back in person, you know. Side note, if you're still listening, I have to go on my soapbox for a second, and I want to shout out anybody who is listening who is a teacher, who is in a healthcare professional field, whether it's like the medical field, the mental health, whatever it is. You are putting in the work. It is really hard to be in those professions right now, and we see you, we hear you, we know it's hard, and we really want to validate that, because I have a lot of teacher clients right now, and they are going through it. I have a lot of clients who are in like the healthcare professional field. They are going through it, and it's a lot. So I just had
No, for sure. This is gonna. What were you saying before that? God, my memory's bad.
Working from home.
Oh, I don't know if this was what I was gonna say, but like my job now, when I first got the job, I got the job with the intent that I'd have to go back into office, like I think it was like in October or something. And then obviously there was that new variant, so they pushed it back, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, when they were trying to offer me to take like it full time, they were like, we've just pretty much decided that this department can do their work fully remote. And so I was like, hell yeah. And like, honestly, I love it, because some days it's hard, but I was just thinking about this today, and I don't know if I was on the phone with you, but I was like, I need to step back sometimes and be grateful, because like, if I need a break, I can take a break, but it's not like like when you're in an office and you take a break, it's like, yeah, you're taking a break. But like now when I take a break, I'm like, oh, I can have cuddles with my dog real quick, or, like I can do whatever. And it's more of like, oh, that was a break. Whereas like when you're in an office, it's like, yeah, I can take a break, but it's not like I can like be comfortable. It's like,
well, you're worried about like your bossing or being unproductive, or like getting called out, like, hey, you should be working. As opposed to like, I'm gonna watch this TV show, or I'm just gonna hang out for a second, and that pressure is off.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely still a lot of adapting, and I personally feel like it's not going to go away anytime soon. And so I feel like we're gonna have to adapt to it. And like, obviously eventually COVID's gonna be like the flu, because this is how like the flu was. And then like over years. So we will get back to living, but I definitely think changes are happening, like especially within like the work field of how we can get our work done and things like that. It's just a slow transition. And I think it's going to be a lot harder for us. And when I say us, I mean everyone who experienced this when it happened. Like I think for us to adapt, it's going to be a lot harder than like, for instance, my nephew, who kind of, this is all that he's known. Like he knows when we go out in public, you put a mask on, and to him, it's not anything out of the norm. Whereas for us, it's a huge thing, because we didn't have to do that. And now like we've been having to do it for 2 years, and it's still not really like clicking for for, for me, sometimes I'll walk and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to grab my mask, and I walk back to my car. And then sometimes I feel like people look at me like, oh, you're still wearing your mask. But I'm like, yeah, I am, like if it's what makes me feel better. I know, like they've said, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And I am, but I still personally choose to wear one because there's all these different variants.
And I that's super interesting because I was thinking about my niece too, because she's about the same age as her nephew, and like they're growing up in the middle of a pandemic, but we have this mindset of like pre-pandemic, this is what life looked like. And I think that's just wild to even like think about or conceptualize, because they don't know any different. Like this is their life. And for us, it's like, this is a completely different way of life. And even, for the millennials or even Gen Z, I'm really interested to see like the long-term effects of the pandemic, especially with like the teenage population. Because I mean, could you even imagine us going to high school and then we go on spring break and we don't go back until the next school year? Like, could you even imagine that?
Well, I saw a Queer Eye where there were seniors who literally have never met some of their classmates and teachers, and they're not gonna be in person when they graduate and anything like that. And so like Queer Eye was giving them like a prom, and that would be the first time that they would be in person. And I'm like that, and they were just saying like how sad it is because they're not getting that like senior year experience. And I'm like, yeah, that must like really suck. And like, I never thought about it like this, but I was watching a video too, and this guy was like, I'm 25 now. I was 22 when the pandemic happened. And I'm like, I was 25 and I'm about to be 28. Like, that it's just like so crazy when you think about it, of like literally like the last 2 years of my life has been like almost, I want to say like quote unquote sheltered in a sense because we're experiencing this pandemic. But it kind of makes me think of like technology. Like obviously technology is not like as negative in that way, but like with my nephew again, I will video call him. Like I try to video call him every morning, and I'll say like, I love you, and like give Chachi kiss. And he knows to go to the screen and kiss the screen. And then I'll be like, give Chachi squeeze, like a hug. And he will literally hug the phone. And my parents are like, he's giving you a hug through the phone. And like, and like, obviously I didn't grow up with technology, and like, I think he's going to be like a master with technology. Like, and like, it's just crazy to think like, again, like with the pandemic, like I'm going to be like pre-pandemic. I remember when we used to be able to do this. And, there are some things that were like, like I want to say like a little bit into the pandemic when there were those videos of like, how did we allow this pre-pandemic? And like, now it's not a thing anymore. I can't remember what it was, but it was just like, now that's like changed.
Yeah, it's wild. And my niece does the same thing. Like I was just video calling her last week and I was like, okay, bye. And then she got real close to the phone and my brother's like, oh, she's giving you a hug. And I was like, okay. And
I know.
I have clients. I've never even met these people in person before. And sometimes like I really miss that, or I wish I had the opportunity to. And then like a new variant comes in. It's like, oh, great. But it's such a wild experience that we can still connect with people and have like these meaningful relationships even if we've never met them, but they're still like even in like my job setting. Like I wonder all the time, like, well, what would this be like if I was in person, or like how would this session have gone if we were in person? Or it's almost like this FOMO about work if I was back in an office setting or doing therapy in person again. Like what would that be like? And I think that's a really interesting, I just thought of that, but kind of just an interesting perspective of even missing out on like a work environment, not a socialization piece.
Yeah, I'm having a brain fart because I was gonna say something that I don't remember. No. I will say like during the pandemic, when I wasn't like, when it was again like that shutdown and you weren't literally socializing with anyone unless you lived with them, I picked up a lot with FaceTiming with my family and stuff. And I will say, like, that's one thing that's stuck that I don't think I really, I mean, it's been like 2 years, so I don't really remember, but I don't think that my family FaceTimed as much as we do now. And like my oldest brother, who just had like a baby, he'll FaceTime us like a couple times a week so that we can see her. And so like I do like that certain things like that have stuck, because I love my family. We're close, and you know, we obviously have our issues or whatever, but I like that, you know, we like, I'll video call my brother sometimes. I'm just like, what are you doing? And we'll just like video call and just like do what, you know, just, it's like that like connection.
Yeah, I do that with my family. We do like family, like as a whole family, we get together. And usually that only happened maybe like once every 5 to 10 years. Like the whole family would be together. And so now this year we've like made it a point that we do that once a month, is, you know, the whole family comes together and we just like FaceTime and catch up. And it's like, why haven't we been doing this for years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think we forgot, or we didn't. We could see your vein popping. You good? No.
The Hulk
I think we didn't think of these resources until that was all that we had to use, because seeing our family in person was not an option.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up because they need to go out and they're.
Look at my angel. Look at my angel, girl.
How sweet. This is why I wish we had cats sometimes.
So let us know what your thoughts are.
Are you feeling full yet?
Are you? Are you?
Do you know last time in our video we did the "Are you?" and we tilted our head to the right at the same time? I was like, oh my gosh, that's scary. So, if not, consider this.
What are some things that you've picked up from like the pandemic that you now do and that you've continued?
Yes, let us know. Comment below, DM us on the gram at Emotionful Pod, or comment on Facebook, Emotionful Podcast.
Yes. But until next time, love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.